The last game you'll ever play, the most ambitious MMO known to mankind. Created by two Silicon Valley tech bros with already millions in funding who still set up a Kickstarter which dug one of the wildest rabbit holes I've ever seen. We've got child moderators, fake engagement rings, massive security issues, and laughably bad development. Trust me, this will all make sense in this video. This is what went wrong with DreamWorld. Spoilers, pretty much everything. And I'm WickedWiz, being a man of my word and standing on someone's desk. Oh, look at that. It appears to be a famous YouTuber Callum Upton's desk. Wow, it actually looks pretty clean. I mean, there's a bit of gamer crust here and there, but massive thanks to my... This is a long video, and to be honest, it should be much longer with the amount of drama surrounding this game. So I've taken it upon myself to give you guys a rough idea as to what happened and where we are now. And if you're interested in this topic and want to know more, then I highly recommend you go check out these channels as they've covered DreamWorld extensively. All videos mentioned in this video have been referenced in the description below. And without videos like these, we would be none the wiser, because this story goes much deeper than you may think. Before the Kickstarter, before all the drama, and before anybody really knew about DreamWorld, two aspiring, inexperienced game developers with no proof or prior experience decide to create the world's greatest MMO. The last game you'll ever play, they say, with thousands of biomes, pets, and every genre and style included. The story of DreamWorld itself starts earlier than the year 2020, but this isn't just a story about the world's most unrealistically ambitious MMO, because it actually starts with these two people. And when you ever decide to fund a project, it's always best to know who's behind it before handing over your hard-earned cash. We have Zachary Kaplan and Garrison Belak, two friends who dropped everything for this game. We'll start off with Garrison, as there's not too much to say about him at this point, but he is the one founder in the story that has any semblance of experience, at least when it comes to development. Apparently, he worked at Google and Facebook for less than a year, but it was later confirmed that this was only for 4 months each as an intern. He did also work at Apple for over 3 years, and was also a senior robotics engineer for a year and 6 months. So Garrison does have some experience when it comes to development, but none of his experiences really apply to game development. But now we move on to arguably the main character in this story. Zach is a self-confessed serial entrepreneur. Imagine the most cliche Silicon Valley tech bro and you have Zach. Not trying to be mean here, but he did drop out of college to pursue the entrepreneurial lifestyle in order to create his first company called Aegis, all the way back in May of 2012. In this time, while being a CEO for his own startup, he also worked as a freelance web developer for about 3 months for one of Garrison's family members. Then a marketing consultant for 4 months, then a marketing and project manager for a year, and finally a marketing manager for a year and a half, which as the CEO of your own company leaves a lot of questions regarding the success of his first product. Because either Zach is really talented with web design and marketing to a point where he just does it for fun, or something big went down with Core Aegis. So, what is Core Aegis and why is it important to DreamWorld? Core Aegis is a company that sells products. These ones to be specific. A not so stylish, expensive portable speaker that you wear. Sounds great, right? I love it when people blast tech bro motivational hype music at 6 in the morning. I mean, who doesn't? Well, this will show us a lot about how the DreamWorld poster boy Zach both sells his ideas and his ability to execute them. The 2015 Kickstarter trailer, in all fairness, was done pretty well. It's definitely a throwback to the dubstep era with their music choice, back when electronic farts were cool. He explains the product, the reason why he made it, and the potential safety benefits as well. But then there's this trailer right here, posted a couple years later in 2018, that acts as a template for what we'll see later with DreamWorld.
And I was running with my earbuds in and I got hit by taxi cabs twice. And I knew I needed my music a different way.
Yeah, that's right. His solution to getting hit twice by cabs while listening to music is to make a wearable portable speaker. And apparently his prototypes were so good that he even had people following him whilst running.
So I think I stuck 2 old speakers in a backpack and started running around with it. And I quickly realized that whenever I'd stop at any intersection, like 5 people behind me would all sort of like stop with me and like look around like they didn't know me. And I realized that they were running with me because they really liked the music.
So first, we have a sob story which I can't help but think is fake, and would only hope to be so. And secondly, an over-exaggerated example of how great the idea is, because he had a bunch of people following him like Forrest Gump. Whether it's true or not, you can begin to see how Zach sells his ideas. I don't know why it works, but it does. He also sent Syndicate a speaker to wear one for extra exposure, which might have helped a little bit towards gaining funding. But for anyone who backed this project for about $90 or more, would receive a core for themselves. Everyone was looking forward to their new strap-on speaker, and on the 22nd of September 2015, victory was announced. Finally, people can annoy the world together, as Zach confirmed things were going forward. I cannot thank you enough for your support, care, contributions, and belief in Core. And I'm so excited to know that I'll be sending yours in several short months. Well, less than a month later, on the 14th of October, people would log in to see that this project was now cancelled. Zach explained in a post later that he was approached by people who wanted to help bring Core Aegis to life. He cancelled the Kickstarter to restore the funds from these backers. But with that, they also didn't get the product. This post was sold as good news, as everyone who still wanted one could buy it for cheaper on the website. But even to this day, the products that they have are still coming soon. So no one actually got anything out of it. One moment he promised people that they would receive their speakers, and the next, everyone gets a big fat nope. Moving on, Zach also set up a fashion brand called Baron. And to be honest, there's not too much to say about it, besides the fact that this isn't the most appealing brand I've ever encountered. I mean, I found it funny that their fav icon looks like a man tipping the fedora, and how the Baron brand is in fact Baron, with 3 to maybe 4 items in the store. And while recording this, it appears that the site is now down. So either they're coming back with some sick DreamWorld merch, or this store be in fact dead. I found the About Us page to be quite interesting. Baron is a worn calling card, a community brand where the brave few take it upon themselves to create, build, act on their dreams, and persevere where others would quit cold. When you see a Baron brand, you know what kind of person you're looking at. Yes, Zach. Yes, I do. Baron is run and designed by Zachary M. Kaplan, founder and CEO of Core Aegis. Zach made Baron as both a creative artistic outlet for styles he envisions wearing, as well as a way to identify, meet, and build a community with like-minded people around the world. From Zach and Baron. Sounds more like he's trying to start a cult than anything else, but we already know that nobody besides probably a few influencers and friends received a core. However, there's nothing impressive about assigning yourself as CEO for a company that's achieved nothing. And talking about yourself in that way while signing off as you is basically this meme. For those of you who haven't been following the DreamWorld drama, you might think I'm being petty here, but trust me, I'm speaking with the knowledge of what's to come. But don't get me wrong, in a lot of ways, Zach is a smart guy. He knows how to sell a product, but his track record doesn't really show much promise, and when you're putting money into anything, it's always worth knowing who that money goes to. It's like hiring someone. You inspect their portfolio first to see if they can execute the idea they're trying to build. But either way, you can see that these guys aren't exactly proven game developers. And that's okay, you've got to start somewhere. Most people start small and work up from there. But DreamWorld is the definition of overpromise and underdeliver. The beginning of DreamWorld actually starts with a game called Elysium, but don't be fooled, this is in fact still DreamWorld. And according to their Kickstarter page that we'll look at later, their journey began with this amazing idea and the creation of their Discord. They then built and released a prototype on the 14th of August 2020. And according to information found out later, these guys went to Minecraft servers in search of their new audience, inviting people of all ages into their Discord to get hyped about this new project of theirs. Apparently they got banned from a few Minecraft servers for self-promotion, but hey, it worked. Anyway, on the 21st of September, the Elysium YouTube channel was created, and on the same day of creation came these 2 videos. One is a promo of the game showing very laggy in-game footage on what is clearly a pre-alpha game. The second is for a competition they hosted called the Maker Competition, where they show the 14 winners. On the same YouTube channel and on the 2nd of November, a video was posted by Zach thanking everybody for the support, but also announcing that they had received funding from, I quote, the largest investor in the world. Nobody knows how much, who, or why. This video, as you can see right here, is currently unlisted. You may assume that I just found a link to it in some unholy place, but no. Because as demonstrated in one of Josh Strife Hayes' videos about DreamWorld, you can simply go to their playlists and find the video. The question I have is, why was it unlisted? I mean, it was a heartfelt, humble video thanking their community for all the support. But with how the story pans out, one could assume that this announcement for successful funding could be harmful to their goals later down the line. In January 2021, DreamWorld becomes DreamWorld, as shown on their socials and their new website. The website at this time was a simple template, more of a placeholder than anything else, but the key piece of information found here, or at least for a short period of time before they tried to hide it, was their About Us page. You've got these two Discord profiles here, Wolf as Zach and Garble as Garrison. And here it says, one superstar ex-Google engineer and one serial entrepreneur with 9 years of game development experience. On the surface, it sounds really impressive. You've got somebody who worked at Google and a game dev with a lot of experience. Well, these are just words, because we already know that Garrison only worked at Google as an intern for 4 months. I guess it just sounds impressive when you say ex-Google engineer. And then you've got Zach, who says he's got 9 years of experience in game development, but when pressed about this later, it turns out that he's got nothing to show for it. And apparently all he did was just come up with ideas, write the notes down for it, maybe a story or two, and then that was it. Now, none of this was really known or taken into account at the time because nobody really knew about DreamWorld or the people behind it. It was this project that could have easily just fizzled away or released later down the line with the funding they apparently secured. But this is where the story for many people truly starts, because on the 17th of March 2021, the DreamWorld Kickstarter came to life and it was a sight to behold. Just looking at this trailer on its own is enough to raise suspicion. An infinite open world MMO where you can essentially do anything, build anything, dig anywhere, explore multiple massive cities with millions of other players on the same server, thousands of unique biomes, pets, creatures, and every genre and style in between. If that sounds crazy, that's because it is, and don't take my word for it because Zach gives us an idea on how immense this game will be.
DreamWorld is the massive, creative, open-world sandbox where millions of people can play, adventure, and create together. We want to create the world with the most freedom possible. If you see a tree and you want to cut it down, go cut it down. If you see dirt that needs digging, go dig that dirt. If you see a mountain that needs leveling, take that pickaxe and go level that mountain. From the highest mountains with waist-high snow, to tundra, to desert, to a Candyland biome, to a pirate bay with jungle surrounding it that's dense enough to get lost in. You'll see it all. The vision is that DreamWorld is the end game. It's every genre, every game, every style, all wrapped into one.
Now, it gets even better because you remember with Core Aegis, we had a sub-story. Well, we have that here too, because why not?
In March 2020, I was living with my fiance in New York City, and we were in our first apartment and struggling to pursue our aspirations there together. The prior 7 months, I was applying to at least 10 new jobs every day, and then suddenly, at the end of January, an incredible opportunity wanted to hire me. And the start date was March 17th. And March 15th, COVID hit New York City, and I lost my job as a waiter, and this opportunity rescinded their offer. And my fiance left me soon after.
The fiance left me line becomes one of the greatest memes in this DreamWorld saga. But anyway, we'll revisit this later because what he says in this trailer stirs up some pretty big unexpected drama. Throughout this trailer, you can see that everything in this game so far looks out of place from each other. No consistency, no balance, and for some reason, no shadows. I get that it's early on in development, but everything looks off. Almost as if they mashed a bunch of Unreal Store assets together. Later on in this video, your boy Garrison pops up saying that they've come up with a solution to have millions of players in a single world.
Zach has always had this idea of a single global game world. The largest digital world that exists today can only have thousands of people. Then we came up with a solution that allows us to have millions. DreamWorld will be the largest multiplayer game ever.
This is a solution that on its own could probably sell for millions, if not billions. And if it existed already, then MMOs would be making use of it to this day. But what we have right here are all these promises, all to be designed, built, and provided for as little as 10k. A project that promotes itself as the end game of all other games for way less than a developer's salary. It's very clear at this point that things aren't adding up. And at this point, they had 2 full-time and 1 part-time developers, which began the 2.5 devs meme. Apparently, they've also had 8 months of development so far, and the trailer makes it seem like a fair amount of work has already been done. However, they do state that the features presented in their video aren't yet in the real game. In the Where We're At section, they have a massive procedurally generated world that is entirely deformable, with a large catalog of 3D objects for you to build from, basic combat, and multiplayer capacity to have thousands, not millions, thousands playing together. The midterm goal section says that everything in the trailer is their roadmap for the alpha, and that they aim to have everything you see in DreamWorld in the game. An infinite procedurally generated world, a player-driven economy based on creating useful in-game items, unique biomes for endless exploration, mobs and bosses for you to take down, with 10 full-time devs and hundreds of thousands of players. Again, not millions. And their long-term vision is that DreamWorld will become the end game. Every genre, every style, every game type that has been and ever will be. All of that in one world, built by each player. Like some sort of CAD system or, of course, a game engine. The overall idea is that this game and its content will be sustained and produced by its players. So when they say every this and that, what they really mean is it's technically possible, but only if the community makes it so. They're going for a creator-centric crafting economy, which might sound great at first, but the question is, how on earth will this be moderated? And obviously, when you make your game creator-centric, if the player base dies or it's not really there, then that will directly impact this economy. Allowing your players to create content is great, but if you rely on it, it could spell disaster. Now, regarding the millions in funding in the hook of this video, a lot of the information around this is kind of sketchy. In some places, people are saying it's over 600,000, others are saying it's less, and others are saying it's more. But on their Kickstarter page, they weren't really clear about it, at least from the start, until later on when people figured out that they received investment from Y Combinator. But at some point, they did update the Kickstarter page. Y Combinator is a large investment firm that typically invests into tech startups, companies such as Airbnb, Twitch, Dropbox, and many more. The reason as to why they're doing a Kickstarter is basically to raise awareness for their game. The additional funds would just go towards development, but as we'll see very soon, this comes to bite them back in the ass a lot more than you might expect. On the 18th of March, an update was announced saying that DreamWorld has been fully backed in just 9 hours. In this post, we see Zach going for a walk and congratulating everyone for achieving this goal. One of the reasons as to why this became so successful is that they ran an ad campaign on Facebook and in other places, and of course with something saying that it's going to be the last game you're going to ever play, the absolute end game to all games, a lot of people are going to click. On the same day, a video from Kira TV, someone who's covered scam projects in the past, reacted to their Kickstarter. And like everyone else, he could very quickly see that things just didn't add up. The scale of the project with the price, the sob story, how unrealistic every line of it seems, and so on. Amongst other things, Kira mentions that this looks more like a fly-through of an asset store pack. And this statement couldn't be more true, because this is where the man who squashed me with his mug comes into this story. Callum Upton, who actually began his YouTube channel just to expose this project. Callum's first ever video on DreamWorld as a developer himself went through a list of the asset packs used in the trailer. The antique ship, surface trails using the demo level to show off in their trailer, fantasy city street generator, firework particle effects, mining fantasy pack for all the gems and ores, and the famous Pirate Island, which even in the trailer confirms that they were just showing a demo level. The press P to play here is what triggers the fly-through of that level. And they just did their own fly-through to avoid making it look exactly the same as the pack trailer. What was made clear in Callum's video is that these guys just grabbed a bunch of assets, cut clips of them together with some of their own gameplay in between, just to make it seem like they've done all this work. The point made here is that using asset packs isn't a bad thing. In fact, by using assets, you're actually helping out other developers. That is, if you pay for them. But what these guys did is just get a few packs together to try and sell an idea, not really having any real proof of concept for what they're trying to make. You wouldn't really expect the last game you'll ever play to be just stitched up assets. A good example of this is the deformable snow.
This is the demo level for the snow deformation. This is not working on their voxel-based mining level because they don't work together and they can't get them to work together. The reason why this character is persistent across all of them is because it's default on any level. This is pre-programmed in the snow deformation demo level to shield itself from snow.
The animation for chopping or mining was just another asset pack animation for a heavy sword swing. They didn't change anything. All they did was cut the animation in half, so you have this swing forward and then a hard reset. Even the textures on the models are just thrown on without any care. The shot with multiple characters is clearly just default characters they found online, with the only one that has any animation being the mannequin. That, conveniently enough, is also what these asset packs use for their demos. In an interview later, Zach said that this was a nod to all other game devs out there. But come on, man, you know that's a lie. What was shown and broken down by Callum made it very clear that these guys have no idea what they're doing. It's their first game, claiming that it's going to be the best thing ever, with no idea how to make it so. It also turns out that anybody who backed this would only gain access to the pre-alpha, regardless of the pledge price as it goes up. Not only that, but Callum makes it clear both in his video and a petition he set up to remove DreamWorld that people who back this won't actually get access until they get another 2 people to back the project. This is the definition of a pyramid scheme. I'm not even kidding. There were also a few people who actually pledged just to warn others, explaining how absurd their claim to making technology for hosting millions of players is. With videos coming out about DreamWorld highlighting all the red flags, the Kickstarter campaign had already been funded 550%. And with this announcement came an interview between Zach and Garrison and a YouTuber called Skiezos. I've watched the whole thing so you don't have to, and there are some interesting questions and even more interesting answers. But in a nutshell, these guys are great at dodging questions, or not really giving a thought-out solution to a potential problem. For example, the classic question as to how they'll manage to have millions of players in one massive world is quite simply enums.
You take something like placing a block. If you simplify that down to an enum, that's actually quite small.
If you're a game dev, you're probably laughing your ass off right now. But for common plebs like myself, it's basically just a data type variable, a buzzword of sorts. That is so far from the solution, he might as well have just said code. When questioned on griefing, their answer was just big map, players need resources to grief, and we'll figure it out along the way. For security, their answer was just to add some verification between the player and the server, which, spoilers, we'll find out later, they didn't even do that. On the 26th of March, the YouTuber MMOBite posted a strange video talking about an offer sent his way. He didn't name the company or game that got in touch in a bid to give it absolutely no attention. But the offer was strange to say the least. He revealed part of one of the 4 emails sent to him, and this is what it said. Just wanted to say that because we're crowdfunding right now and we need working capital, if your video increases our sales from a positive review, we will give you 20% of all earnings from the point you released your video about us. Now, while researching this, I thought that this deal was for all sales of the game, but then I realized this was in regards to the earnings of the Kickstarter project, which is absolutely insane. Not only are they insisting that MMOBite should sell out, but they're willing to offer him a good chunk of the backers' money instead of putting that money towards the game. They then follow up to say, of course, worth mentioning, I'm not offering you the money to say positive things. Please keep it honest and real the whole time. I'm just wanting to give back to you directly if your video impacts our sales positively. They technically didn't tell MMOBite to make a positive review, but they put the money on the table and said this could be yours if it's a positive review. Now let's move on to the craziest month in this story, April. And on the 7th of April, Callum made his second video covering DreamWorld. Firstly, this Kickstarter used to have the Projects We Love badge, and on the 4th of April it was removed. One of the people who backed this project made a video on why they think this happened. It turns out, surprise surprise, you need to follow a strict criteria to obtain a badge. However, they most likely got a badge thanks to help from Y Combinator. Either way, the Projects We Love badge left them, and this was probably due to the amount of reports coming in flagging this project. Of course, Kickstarter didn't really take it down because money. But on the Y Combinator site, DreamWorld did also change their tags, removing cloud gaming and gaming, which seems rather odd to say the least. Almost like they aren't all too confident this multiplayer infrastructure they apparently came up with is actually going to work. On the 9th of April, the DreamWorld Kickstarter project had been successfully funded at over 640%. It seemed that all the bad press so far wasn't really enough to deter people from backing this project. And either way, they received all the funding before they even got to this point. I mean, there were people who revoked their pledge, but all in all, this was a momentous day for Zach and Garrison. So then, why did they go silent? No posts, no thanks for all the money and support, no nothing, just gone. But don't you worry, these guys haven't done a runner. No, they just decided to both go on holiday. And it probably wasn't the best time for them to go on holiday because around this time, quite a few people thought that they just ran off with the money. And of course, within their absence, a few more videos came out just detailing how sketchy this project is. On the same day this campaign ends, Kira releases another video, keeping people up to date with the big news, and amongst other things in this video, we can see that content creators who reached out just to talk to both Zach and Garrison wouldn't be given a chance and were essentially asked to remove their videos first and retract any of their comments. The overall opinion that these guys had and may still have on critical videos is largely negative, with them not willing to accept or talk to people who are critical. This response to criticism is never a good sign, and it makes things worse as they clearly aren't willing to open up to anyone unless it's positive. I mean, all you need to do is have a look at their Kickstarter page, go down to the comments, and you can see that people are being banned for just asking questions. So from this, it's very clear that these guys are trying to silence any criticism or concerns. And on the same day again, Josh, the man with the many mugs, and the popular Worst MMO series pitched in to share his opinion on the situation. He goes into detail as to how absurd the concept for this game is. And you know what, I could just go ahead and summarize it myself. But here I am, being a man of my word and chilling in his mug. So, Josh, what do you think?
DreamWorld as a concept won't make a great game because it's not approaching game design as let's make a fun game. It's approaching game design as a problem to be solved. Imagine, if you will, that you work in a huge company and you use a piece of software every day, and then the upper management decide they're going to redesign the software because they know best and you don't know what you're doing. Many people have been in this situation. You get given something that doesn't give you what you want because the people who designed it don't know what you want it for. Telling people that you are going to make the best game ever, the one game, the final game, the only game people will ever need to play, is approaching game design as how do you solve the problem of games, not how do you make a good game. It's the same energy as saying, why do people read many books? Why don't they just read the best book? I'm going to write the best book and you'll never need to read any more. Why do people watch lots of films? Why don't they just watch the best film? Why do people eat lots of different food? Why don't they just eat the best food? Saying that this is going to be the last game that you ever play is coming at game design with the energy that gaming is a problem to be solved and there is one perfect game for everyone that no one will need to deviate from ever. What you effectively have there is a game design engine. You are giving players the ability to make whatever experience they want, but you're selling that as the fun experience itself. Making a game should be about making a fun experience for the player to go through, not about giving the player the experience to make whatever the hell they want. That's your job as a game designer. You don't solve games by making the final best game. That's not how games work.
Thanks, Josh. Sorry about the feet in the tea situation. Anyway, Moving on to the 19th of April, Zach and Garrison finally come back from holiday a little more tanned with an update post probably recorded in a hotel lobby. While looking as if they were held hostage by the Shadow Cabal, they finally thanked everyone for their support and talked about how they'll be smashing out updates weekly once the alpha is released. And on the same day as this update, a video was posted by Extra Slope where we have Slopes and Callum talking about DreamWorld in a live stream. At some point in the stream, Callum brings up the massive banning campaign in the DreamWorld Discord. And as we know already, it was pretty bad. And don't you worry, we'll see some examples about this later. Even worse, their Discord mods are literally children. From ages 14 to 16 who are of course not paid as mods and are essentially doing customer service on the side. I mean, come on man, accepting kids into your official Discord mod team that is public by the way, shows a complete lack of foresight. And if they already received funding, then why not hire a professional community manager? And with all this Discord drama going on, the 20th of April came with a video from Kira who shared a great example of what happens when you ask a legitimate question on their Discord. He recorded the process by asking Zach about his 9 years of experience. And this post lasted a good amount of time in full sight of the mod team. But once Zach logged on via his phone, Kira quickly found himself in the banished realm. But it gets better because one of the mods actually got in touch to ask what was going on. And when Kira said he just asked a question, they then went back to Zach and Garrison, only to come back and tell Kira that it was because of the videos he made about DreamWorld. So I guess the question wasn't really the problem here, it's just because it's him. But don't you worry, because in this video we do actually get an answer to the 9 years of development question, as Kira finds some screenshots being shared around a public Discord that include Zach's ex, and she confirms that Zach's experience with game development is nothing more than dreams with notes and ideas. But then there was some personal information regarding their engagement which was being shared around and revealed that Zach proposed with a fake ring. Now this information leak caused a bit of a stir, as the next day Zach's ex-fiancée would create a response video, revealing a lot more about the situation and Zach as a person. This is where we introduce Smiling Island, or Island, Zach's ex-fiancée, a successful model and influencer who doesn't really post videos about this kind of stuff, but felt like she had to because things were kind of getting out of control. Now it's a long video, but in summary, here's what I got from it. Firstly, she was shocked that Zach made it seem like she broke up with him after he lost his job. This is false. It turns out she broke up with him for multiple other personal reasons. And at the time where Zach lost his job, Island was actually doing pretty well. Zach actually had to move in with her parents for about 5 months. Regarding the fake ring, it all started when Zach proposed to Island at a red carpet event. This was quite a surprise to Island and she of course accepted. But when she went to go and get the ring fitted, she was told that it was so fake that to actually resize it will break it entirely. Yeah, this wasn't just a fake ring. This was the fakest it could be, with the next best thing being this. Now, Island was actually concerned that Zach got ripped off, but in 2020, with the world going to crap, Island had some time to think about their relationship, because it wasn't just stuff about the ring, there were other things as well, things that should rightfully remain private. So she went ahead to confront Zach about all the things that were bothering her. And when things started to boil over, it turns out that Zach knew that the ring was fake all this time. She also mentions that he would gaslight her into making it seem like she was just being materialistic. But if that was the case, she would have left long before that. Now, Callum also spoke to Island, and from what he heard as well as what we've seen in Island's video, Zach comes across as a compulsive liar. It is old news and people can change, but it does say a lot about Zach as a person. Because if this is the way that you propose to your soon-to-be lifelong partner, then what does that mean for something less significant like DreamWorld? I also got in touch with Island to see if she had any other thoughts on the situation, but she said that everything that she wanted to say was in her video. However, she does want to make it clear that by knowing Zach and Garrison in person, they aren't some scammer mastermind team. They truly believe that they can do it. They truly believe that they will deliver on their promises. She had no comment on whether she believes they can or will, but the point is, she does not believe they have malicious intent. Now, I'm not a mind reader. I'm pretty much just some guy clicking links and making notes. But from what I gather, looking through as much as I can about these guys and DreamWorld, I can say that to some extent, this is probably true. I don't believe they're trying to be malicious, but it's already clear that these guys over-exaggerate their experience, over-promise, and try to hide or avoid any criticism that comes their way. And if you don't believe me, on the 23rd of April, we have a real example that was recorded by a by a small but relevant creator, Think House Productions, who caught some footage on a conversation between Zach and one of the Discord users. And of course, he was asked a bunch of questions. But when it comes down to the topic behind funding, this is how he chose to handle it.
Cody, I really think that you should go, if you have that kind of question, I think you should go and try and make a startup. We actually didn't have all the time in the world.
So you're running out of money, I guess, and then that's why you had to launch early.
No, we didn't run out of money. We just didn't have our investment in our bank account yet.
So normally seed funding's used to improve your demo, but you didn't use it for that.
I don't know what experience you have in the business world, but we may have done something that's unorthodox. Well, so in your research about Y Combinator, did you come across Demo Day?
I didn't research them.
Huh? Did you know about
You didn't
Demo
research
Day?
Y Combinator? I thought you said you did.
No, I don't really care about researching it, but just
research
continue.
Y Combinator.
I've heard about them. I heard they just
Okay, so
invest.
Cody,
they
earlier
invest,
you
all
told me that. Cody, earlier you told me that you looked up Y Combinator, and you also told me that you were going to go and watch this video. I'd really love for you to do both before we continue talking. Please go and watch all of those things. Thank you.
You guys can make from that what you will. But I guess if you're not in the business world or have your own startup, then you're not really going to get any answers. Now, moving on to the 25th of April with the Kickstarter project now obviously funded, MMO Byte comes back again with another video. This time on DreamWorld. And he goes ahead to reveal that it was in fact those guys who got in touch with him regarding that strange offer. I mean, we already knew that this was the case, otherwise why would I put it in the video? But at the time, people weren't all too sure, until this came out which confirmed everything. On the 28th of April, Josh posts another video on the DreamWorld drama, giving an update on what's been going on with a lot of what we've seen already. But the conversation around how they actually obtained funding brings up a discussion in a Y Combinator newsfeed about how something like DreamWorld managed to get through to funding. There is a lot of discussion going on in this feed, but it's possible that with Zach and Garrison's skills in selling an idea, and that's not a joke by the way, they do know how to sell an idea as is proven with the money they've raised, that they probably got through because the investors assessed the individuals more than the product itself, but this still doesn't make sense. That is until a couple days later on the 30th of April, where Callum shares a video that he was contacted from high-ups at Y Combinator. Apparently there was a rumor going about, and still probably is by the way, that Garrison has a close friend very high up at this company, and that he essentially had DreamWorld fast-tracked past the usual vetting process. The investors at Y Combinator easily assumed that this project had been vetted like everything else. But apparently that wasn't the case. And this was especially strange because Y Combinator don't typically fund games, and especially ones like this. But also in this video, Callum points out something majorly wrong with the network code, because after going through the game files, he finds that the network code that they came up with wasn't in fact theirs. Smash like if you didn't see that coming. It was in fact forked from 2 different repositories on GitHub, and the templates were practically copy and pasted. These were also under an MIT license, which requires DreamWorld to disclose the usage of them and appropriately credit the creators. Once this information came out, their part-time half-dev, who apparently did all the network code, is now no longer on the team. Wow, what a coincidence. Not only that, but it turns out that the music they've used in both their trailer and the game files is under a license that they're not even following. They're not allowed to distribute it. Now, you might wonder how Callum figured this out. Well, it turns out they made his job easier by showing the URL on the actual file packaged within their game. Judging from the URL, it looked like it was just screen recorded and saved as an MP4 and then converted to an MP3, because it's the same link where the sample comes from. Now, on the 3rd of May, Kira released another video complete with a Willy Wonka meme that still gets me to this day. There's a lot more about the Discord drama in this video than mine, and we'd be here all day if we went through every single thing. But he confirms with evidence that the child mods were in fact children, and that the only adult mod on the team, who tried to improve their server, was removed, all because he confronted the devs about the bannings and warned a very confrontational member of the community. This particular member of the community wasn't very happy, and she seemed to be quite close with Zach and Garrison, so then the only adult mod was removed for doing their job. Zach was also caught lying about the situation where he banned Kira for asking a question, and here's what he had to say.
Oh, was that his question? I answered that.
Oh. What was the answer?
Yeah, that's me.
What was,
it was an easy answer.
What was your answer?
Oh, my answer is I work in Unity mostly, and then I actually made Flash games back in the day, back when that was actually a thing, Miniclip and stuff like that. And most of them were just personal projects, but I've also put together several hundred pages of documentation and illustrations and some animations and some rigging and things like that for what's now becoming DreamWorld, which is really fun. But it was mostly just small personal projects.
So besides the laugh that will forever haunt my dreams, Zach says he answered this question, but no, he actually didn't. And if you watch the videos that these guys were making, then he might have been a bit more careful, as Kira literally had a recording of what happened. And as we already know, he was just banned. On the 10th of May, Josh releases a video looking through the DreamWorld drama from start to current day. And besides the stuff that we already know, it turns out that these guys still have Elysium titled in the .exe, which doesn't add much to the story, but it's just more icing on the cake. And on the 14th, as if nothing worse could happen, Callum shows us some leaked screenshots of the alpha, the same alpha that is meant to be released in a week. And in short, it doesn't look great. News also came out that 3 of the developers behind the asset packs used actually came together to launch a case against both Zach and Garrison, of which we've not heard much from, but they did this because they strongly believe, with evidence, that their assets were stolen. And with only a week to go, they got to hiring developers last minute in hopes to have the alpha ready by the 21st, which is absolutely insane, but it gets better. Interviewees actually got in touch with Callum, confirming that they were in fact hiring people to work on this alpha and to actually have it ready for the release date. There was also another layer of icing on the cake here, as Stephen Arnold, the CEO and creative director for Fracture Labs, apparently one of Zach's idols, enters the Discord to share a few words of his own. And you can see the full thing on Callum's video, but all I can say is that he wasn't there to give praise. Now, originally I was going to move on to the release day, the 21st, because that's when the alpha comes out. But while researching this, I found that people managed to get access to the game by effortlessly breaking into the files and sharing it about to a bunch of different creators. So on the 20th of May, not the 21st, Skiazos the Defector posted a video called DreamWorld Worst Alpha Game Ever. And dear God, did it look unholy. Now, when the game was actually released, and it was released on the 21st, so at least they didn't delay anything, it very quickly became clear that these guys were way in over their heads. I mean, besides being super laggy, they still had the placeholder cubes for plots, which they said were just placeholder when the screenshots were leaked, but were now clearly a feature for the alpha release. Their city assets didn't appear to have been purchased either and were just placed without care, which apparently you can just walk through. The game was so poorly optimized that they placed a really short fog to help with the render distance. But what they actually did is just shorten the view distance without actually having things pop in and out. Their network code on launch had no authentication, meaning that the server just takes your word for it. Players can easily change the speed of the day and night cycle, their own character speed, how many items you have, and if they wanted, they could just control other players. It's so bad that without trying, people can hack this game, but I wouldn't even call it that because it takes no effort to do so. So at launch, you are actually at risk by playing this game. And the list goes on. The only addition since the leaked pics was that they added grass. Now, to be fair, these guys did stick around both with the release date and weekly updates, although they probably should have just delayed the game to avoid the embarrassment. This game at this point just looked like a demo level, if that. Something that probably could have been done in just a day. But apparently a journalist reached out to both Zach and Garrison asking for an interview, but they said that they were too busy working 80 hours a week. If it wasn't already obvious with the absolute state of this game, those 80-hour work weeks are either BS or true, and both are equally as bad. So with their promise to do weekly updates, Callum made it his mission to review each one. And it's definitely worth checking out Callum's playlist on this, because this whole thing becomes a comedy series. But this video right here is a prime example of what those hours go into, where Callum reviews 2 weeks worth of work and how little they've done. Week 1, Elysian Spirit Lantern. This had no code whatsoever. Explicit rotation improvements. Nobody could find the improvements or figure out what this meant. Load time improvements. They just removed Callum and Skiazos from the game. deleting all their assets. Resource cheats fixed. This wasn't actually fixed because Callum and Scaresos immediately cheated the resource system once again. A minimap added. This was just another asset that they couldn't get to work with multiplayer. Speedy sidewalks with a nerf incoming. I'm not too sure why they didn't just correct the speed before releasing this, but hey. Steam VR fix. They basically just told Unreal Engine that this project was a VR title. And to fix this, all you have to do is just uncheck the tick box. For week 2, they had hunt treasure chests across DreamWorld. And apparently this was either broken or not even in the game because nobody could find one. Or they just hid them very well. The minimap now has XY coordinates. This, yet again, is just another checkbox. Apparently the city is undergoing extensive beautification, so not really a change, just something that's gonna happen. Crystal collection buffed 3 times. This is false. Apparently they didn't even do this. World healing delayed 1 week to give people time to collect more crystals. This is also false. There was never code for it, and the crystals never existed. And finally, sprint is now default. Yet again, another checkbox. To add to this, they also managed to mess up the doors. Somehow they've done it so that the doors open on 45-degree angles, clockwise and only clockwise, meaning that you have yourself a revolving door. The actual bit of code that they did do in 2 weeks was so easy that Callum went ahead to speedrun all the work they've done. And all of this only took 3 minutes. Not 2 weeks, but 3 minutes. But one of the most concerning things about the updates coming out was the security. And it was pretty damn bad. Now, people quickly noticed that there wasn't a login system, which means only one thing, that you're logged in using your own IP address. So of course, by using a VPN, you would either not log in at all, or log in as a totally different character. But it gets worse, because they upgraded to using the player's MAC address. And this is essentially what is used to tell the difference between any device connected to the internet. This, of course, is a massive security concern. And to make matters even worse, half of your MAC address would be displayed above your head. They also had the brilliant idea to allow users to screenshot and share images directly to Discord through webhooks, which is honestly meant to be an innocent feature for people to share their builds, but can easily be used to flood the Discord with extremely inappropriate content without anybody knowing who did it. And I can't believe I'm actually saying this, but it gets worse. Each webhook is saved with a custom name, which is saved in your images folder. The issue with this is that the file path was made visible, meaning that if you use your real name on Windows, then you could end up doxing yourself. Now, this is just one of the many reasons as to why Callum deserves more subs, because after finding out about this, he got in contact with the developers to show what was going on before releasing the video, because it was that much of an issue and people were genuinely at risk. The DreamWorld fiasco is an iceberg that keeps on going. Things like adding a rather controversial figure into the mod team even after being warned about it, banning Scaresos for adding too many peppers in his own plot of land and the devs just replacing it with one giant pepper, deleting their whole mod chat after some weird messages, terrible customer service as people actually tried to get their game, with people not even receiving their keys at some points, the endless Discord drama, and so on. Perhaps we can explore deeper in a part 2 video, but more recently an interview came out from MMO Bomb with Garrison. Now this is a long video, and for both time and sanity's sake, I'm going to give you guys a summary on what I've seen and heard with some key points I want to address. If you want, you can go see the full thing in the description below, but here we go. Firstly, Garrison is asked if it's a scam. And of course, he isn't going to say it is because that would be stupid. But in his answer, he doesn't really give any real example or reason as to why it's not. Just that this is a passion project and everyone is working hard to meet these ambitious goals. But I've got more on what I think about DreamWorld being labeled as a scam later on in this video, so let's move on. Next, Garrison is asked about the multiplayer infrastructure. The millions of players on a single server solution that we now know was BS from the start. Well, according to Garrison, DreamWorld as of now is comparable to WoW and other big MMOs in terms of server load, but just for one server. So they haven't yet implemented what they promised. He confirms that it's still in the works, but it's now on the backseat in favor of gameplay, which is fair. However, with this being such a high selling point, such revolutionary technology that they could make millions, if not billions from it on its own, then the question I have is, why are they really stalling? The pitch to the consumers and inevitably the investors, although we've not seen their actual pitch to the VCs investing into this, is that they will be able to handle millions of players on one server. I assume that if they can't achieve this, then they're going to be in big trouble. Never mind us commoners, the people investing large amounts into this game will also be expecting that. And I don't think Garrison would ever admit that they can't do it, because to do so will of course come with some pretty negative results on their end. The game was meant to be run on a peer-to-peer structure, but due to security concerns, they're no longer doing that. And Garrison apparently takes security very seriously.
DreamWorld takes security very seriously, and I know there's people out there that don't feel that way. And I'm sure you probably have a question about that later, but no, we would not go through the peer-to-peer route.
They might take it seriously now, but that most definitely wasn't the case when they first released the alpha. You know, when they were using everyone's MAC IDs or IP addresses instead of a login solution. And of course, the screenshots using webhooks that could both dox you and also flood the Discord with really inappropriate images. Throughout this interview, Garrison makes it clear that they will stand by the goals they set out for this game, that he has no intentions to be misleading. Focusing purely on the game here, I don't fully believe that it was their intention to be misleading. I honestly believe that they thought it was possible without properly looking into the challenges behind building a game like this. It's like when you're a kid and you imagine this super amazing game that'll have everything in it, without actually understanding the amount of work that goes into it, the complications, and the overall feasibility behind it. It's clear that none of them had the background to accomplish something like this. They over-exaggerated their experience with the ex-Google superstar and 9 years of game dev experience BS, and in all honesty, I think they don't know what they're doing. They had an idea for what they wanted to do, told everybody that they're gonna do it, and won't admit that they promised too much from the start. You can promise people the world and they will buy into it, but if you can't deliver on that promise, then people are going to call you out for it. And it doesn't matter how much you try to silence criticism or dodge bullets, people will eventually figure it out for themselves. Regarding the pyramid scheme, he didn't admit to it actually being a pyramid scheme, that the $1 tier was the only one with it. But that's not the point. It's the fact that you're asking for money and promising that people will get access if they then bring 2 other people on to pledge. The money doesn't matter. It's still a pyramid scheme either way. Regarding the child moderators, Garrison says they aren't company reps, which is true, because that's not their title. However, the Discord is their community hub. Nothing else. It's just the Discord. And the chain of command in this Discord included child moderators. And these mods by default represent the community in some form or another. I'll say it again, this is the official Discord and it's public. And in this interview, he confirmed that both him and Zach approved them to join the mod team. With these mods being in the position that they were, they of course received a lot of backlash from disgruntled members, as well as just hate in general, which is unacceptable and unproductive in any situation, but they left their position because they were just as confused as everybody else as to how the Discord was run. Probably a lot of other reasons too, but in this interview, Garrison makes it out to be that they were let go to protect them from harassment. What annoys me about this is that he doesn't admit to it being a bad decision from the start. I get that in the beginning, when you're small, it makes sense to bring people on who are fans of the game and who are a big part of the community. However, in hindsight, they could have hired actual community managers and with the funding they had already gained. Now, there's a point in this video where the interviewer asks Garrison about allegations regarding odd messages between them and the mods. This is of course a difficult question and Garrison's answer is pretty long, but he does make it clear that these guys don't stand for that kind of behavior, and that Zach is the kind of guy that's a bit too positive, but pretty much to everyone. Except of course for when you ask him about his 9 years of development experience. All I can say about this at the moment is that it's weird, and from what I'm aware, nothing really came of it besides adding further controversy and confusion to this already messed up story. But like everything else in this video, all of this could have been avoided with a little bit of foresight. This interview, at least from what I understand, is the most recent thing regarding DreamWorld. But weirdly enough, regardless of all of the drama, all the chaos, all the disaster, this is the part where I give credit where it's due. These guys, regardless of everything, stuck to their word and released weekly updates and continue to do so to this day. What the game looked like back then compared to what it is now is actually actually quite impressive. Now, I've had a go over the free trial, and I'll be honest, it looks much better than I expected. It does look and feel like a game, although still very much an alpha with bugs, glitches, basic unrefined UI, and simplistic combat. What I see and what I appreciate is that these guys are trying to make a game. But is this the game we were promised? Well, in short, the answer is no. And they've made it clear that they're still working on it. But this game, for good reason, has been labeled a scam many times. Now, I agree with Ireland, as I don't believe these guys are scammer masterminds. That would actually require a proper exit plan. But a scam, to me, doesn't have to be intentional. What I see here are two people with their heads in the cloud, promising everything without much foresight and a belief that in time they'll eventually deliver on everything. And because Zach is a web designer, I'll use this example. Imagine that you need a functional website, just something that works. And I come to you and I say that I can make something award-worthy, with all the responsiveness, cool features, and a seamless user experience. But the only experience I have is with WordPress templates and plugins, and I've only ever made a website for my uncle. In my head, I might think that I can do it, and all it takes is a few late nights and some tutorials. My justification is that I'm naively confident that I can somehow provide it, all because I have a bit of experience and know a little bit about it. But now the promise is made, and the reality of achieving that goal becomes, well, a reality. So to protect myself, I make excuses, dodge questions, and make things seem better than they actually are. However, when I show you what I've done so far, it's clear that this is nothing compared to what I said it would be. Now, things can improve, but wouldn't you already feel cheated, lied to, or even scammed? The problem here is that I started off with a goal to impress and sell you on an idea, knowing deep down that I don't have the ability to provide it, yet still driven with a naive belief that it's possible with enough money and time. As you could probably tell, I've experienced this exact situation before in many areas, from different agencies and freelancers. I can't say it's 100% accurate, and this may change as more information presents itself, but I understand why people call it a scam. I wouldn't say it's necessarily calculated, and if it is, they've done a very poor job of it, but it is at least deceptive. And out of pure curiosity to see how this turns out, I'll give them their time before calling it anything, even though I doubt they'll be able to actually achieve everything that they said they would. Because after speaking to actual game developers, it's highly unlikely that these guys will solve the multiplayer issue or admit to it being a total miscalculation in terms of feasibility. But it's far more likely that they'll say they don't need it because they don't have the player base for it, or that they're still working on gameplay for however long until they figure it out. Now, in a weird way, there is actually some good to come from DreamWorld, because without it, we wouldn't have this. This right here is Nightmare World, led by Callum and built by a talented team of developers. This game has been in the process of development for a little while now, and it started off as a meme. It's an MMORPG that was created out of spite, to prove that you don't need to raise millions of dollars to create your game. It's set in a dark Victorian fantasy, and they're going with a RuneScape-inspired classless system where you can utilize a mix of different combat styles and switch things up whenever you're near a bank or a rest point. It's still very much a work-in-progress game, but after speaking with Callum and some of the devs while also following the project as it progresses, it's something that I'm really looking forward to. And if you're interested, then definitely go check out Callum on YouTube, as this footage is directly from his dev blogs. But I can't say too much for the future of DreamWorld, at least not at this point. We've seen a lot here, but there's still a lot more to go, and these guys are still at it, so God knows where this ends up. This video was meant to be a quick peek into the rabbit hole, but from this, many more were found. So you can expect to hear more from me regarding this project as it continues, and I wouldn't be surprised if there was a part 2. This is an extreme example of over-promising and under-delivering, a theme we see a lot in these videos. If in the start they were more realistic and upfront and honest, then maybe the story wouldn't have gone the way it has. I want to make it clear that I don't wish bad on DreamWorld or Zach in Garrison. I make these videos so hopefully the same mistakes aren't repeated again, but they've got a long way to go before I ever make a what went right with DreamWorld. But for now, I'll just stand here, watching and waiting. Thank you so much for watching, and I'd also like to say a massive thanks to all my patrons for supporting this channel and making videos like these possible. And if you want to have your name on the list, you can support for as little as £1 a month. Let's see how big we can make this list. And also a special thanks to my top tier supporters: FBI, TimeWiz, Curious Soul, Anastasius, Halundren, Gibbles by the Dozen, Chasar Melvin, Grim the Ripper, Negadan, Kex, Drager Funyan, Legeayana, Shadow Banisher, Distant Reality, Rosal Bagatti, Artistical, Spooky, Mr. Pine, Lynn Kerr, Alex Caprol, Finra, Mark Nen, King Swing, Basto, and Rare Alex. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one where I stand in another random location, because that's what I do.